Today we're continuing to explore the hidden gospel of Judas, and we're going to see that Jesus and Judas are having this face-off, and Jesus is going to reveal to Judas the secret God and the hidden reality. It's going to be a good one. Now remember that anyone who supports on Patreon will get my lecture notes for this live stream, access to secret live streams, and our Discord server, the Citadel. So keep that in mind. Let's begin the Gospel of Judas. So if you haven't seen my other videos on the Gospel of Judas, I'm going to link them in the description of this video. You can check out my intro and a whole breakdown of it. But even if you haven't seen it, you'll still be able to follow this video. But they're there for you if you want to see them. Now, last we left off, we had Jesus and Judas sort of in a face-off. And we learned that Judas is most likely an avatar for the evil creator god, Yaldabaoth. So we have sort of this face-off between Jesus and Judas. And in this Gnostic realm, they are sort of mortal enemies. And now, as we continue, Jesus is going to tell Judas about the secrets of reality. So Jesus said, "Come, and I'll teach you about the mysteries that no human will see, because there exists a great and boundless realm, whose horizons no angelic generation has seen, in which is a great invisible spirit, which no angelic eye has ever seen, no heart has ever comprehended, and it's never been called by any name." So Jesus is about to reveal to Judas the hidden reality, the secret reality. And so we know that the Gospel of Judas is a Sethian text. There are other Sethian texts known as the Secret Gospel of John, the Apocalypse of Adam, etc. These are other Sethian texts. So they all follow pretty much the same story, with some differences. So we know that Judas is most likely an avatar for the evil creator god, Yaldabaoth. In the secret book of John, Yaldabaoth has no idea that there exists this secret realm. Now, in the Gospel of Judas, Judas does seem to have some kind of knowledge of this, because he knows that Jesus is from some kind of higher realm and that he comes from the Barbelo. And the Barbelo is a reference to an entity within that realm. So there is a little bit of a difference here. But in any case, Jesus is revealing the secret realm and the secrets of the secret realm to Judas. And we know that if Judas is indeed an avatar of the evil creator god, in the secret book of John, the evil creator god doesn't know about this realm. In this book, it seems like he does have some knowledge, but perhaps it's fuzzy. Perhaps it's not complete. So Jesus is telling Judas he's going to teach him about these mysteries that no human will see and no angelic eye has ever seen, no heart has ever comprehended. And a luminous cloud appeared there, and he, the Spirit, said, "Let an angel come into being to attend me." And a great angel, the self-begotten, the God of the light, emerged from the cloud. And because of him, another 4 angels came into being from another cloud, and they attended the angelic self-begotten. And said the self-begotten, "Let a realm come into being." And it came into being, just as he said. And he created the first luminary to rule over it. And he said, "Let angels come into being to serve it." And myriads without number came into being. And he said, "Let a luminous realm come into being." And it came into being. He created the second luminary to rule over it, along with myriads of angels without number to offer service. And that's how he created the rest of the realms of light. And he made them to be ruled and created for them myriads of angels without number to assist him. assist them. All right, let me explain what's happening here. So Jesus is revealing to Judas the secrets of creation and this hidden realm and this hidden God known as the invisible spirit. And when we look at this, we can see that the story is extremely similar to the story given in the secret book of John about the secret realm and the secret God, because they're both Sethian texts. They both follow the same thing. Now, there are some differences, and the reason why there are some differences are probably for a few reasons. One reason is that this Gospel of Judas was most likely written later, and another reason is that this is a real condensed version. This is a real summary. Jesus is going to tell this to Judas in just a couple paragraphs. So in the secret book of John, it goes into much more detail. Also, and this is kind of weird, but this version mentions femininity a lot less. In the secret book of John, there is ultimately everything is androgynous, but there is a reference to a lot of the female aspect. And as Gnosticism went along, especially in Valentinian Gnosticism, what they were trying to do is appeal to Christians to sort of pull Christians away from what would become mainstream Christianity. And this is unfortunate, but the conclusion was most likely that, hey, if we're going to get Christians to step away from what they believe and see this aspect of things, in mainstream Christianity, there's not a huge feminine influence. It's very masculine. So most likely what they did was downplay the feminine aspect to appeal to those who were starting to follow this much more dangerous version of Christianity that eventually became mainstream Christianity. And I know that sucks. I don't agree with it, but that's most likely was the thought process. But anyway, I'm getting a little off track here. Anyway, the main point is that Jesus is describing this realm to Judas. And I'm going to explain to you what it is, because when Jesus is explaining it to Judas, he's doing it in a very condensed way. And so some things are a little off, but it's basically the same idea. You know, you have the four lights, you have the great invisible spirit, you have the realm of light, you have the emanations, you have the luminaries, all these things. So basically what this is that in Gnosticism, so, you know, the Gospel of Judas, the secret book of John, the apocalypse of Adam, this is known as Gnostic Christianity. It all follows the same narrative. And so in this version of Christianity, you have this hidden realm and this hidden God. This hidden realm is known as the pleroma, or the fullness, a realm of divine light, and the hidden God is known as the great invisible spirit, or the one, or the monad. And here's the idea. So in Gnosticism, there is nothing at all, nothing, except for the one, or the monad, or the great invisible spirit, different names for the same thing. That's it. That's all that exists is the one. And the one is a mind. It's a divine mind. And so this one begins to think. And so everything that exists are thoughts of the divine mind. So you have different levels of reality. You have the physical reality, and then you have the domain of thought. But both of them are ultimately thought, because everything happens within the realm of the divine mind. So you can understand this like a dream. You have a dream which seems physical, but it's mind, and then you have mind, which is obviously mind. Okay? So in Gnosticism, you have the one, or the monad, that begins this process of thought, and it begins generating these thoughts. And in Gnosticism, these thoughts are symbolically known as the different luminaries, or the different lights, or the different angelic beings. But they are the thoughts of God, of the one. And so they are all different aspects of the one, just like your thoughts are different aspects of you. So this realm is the realm of thought, and it's generating these different lights. And so what eventually happens is that one of the thoughts of God, known as Sophia, decides to act out of harmony with the rest of the mind. It decides to act independently, according to its own will, and when it acts independently and according to its own will, it generates an evil, malformed thought known as Yaldabaoth, and that evil, malformed thought, Yaldabaoth, is in Gnosticism what is going to become the evil creator god of the Bible. So, in Gnosticism, you have this, and imagine it like this. So in Gnosticism, it's really the story of God going insane. And what I mean by that is, think about your own thoughts. Your thoughts are, for the most part, in sync and in harmony. But what if one of your thoughts started acting on its own accord? What if one of your thoughts started acting like it was its own being? And then many thoughts started acting like they were their own being and out of harmony with the rest of your mind. Well, you'd start to go insane, right? Because you have all these different thoughts in your mind that are starting to display independence and operating out of accord with the rest of your mind. So essentially, that is what happens in Gnosticism. You have the one divine mind that is working together in unification and harmony. All the thoughts are working together in perfect harmony and symmetry. And then you have one thought that decides to act on its own, out of accord with the rest of its mind. This generates a malformed, evil thought known as Yaldabaoth, which is the evil creator god. This evil creator god thinks that it is the true God. It doesn't even have knowledge of the rest of the things going on. It doesn't have knowledge of the one. It doesn't have knowledge of the luminaries. It doesn't have knowledge of the other thoughts. It thinks it is the one. It thinks it is God, and it creates this material world. And this material world that it creates, remember, everything is still thought, is actually this dream reality. So the material world is this dream. And so the evil creator god, Yaldabaoth, which is a malformed thought, starts trapping souls, thoughts, into thoughts of the divine mind, pieces of the divine mind, into bodies, into dream bodies in the dream world that Yaldabaoth created. So in Gnostic Christianity, every single one of us are pieces of God that have been trapped in this dream that we think is real, but is actually not real. So remember, everything is part of the divine mind. So all this is going on in the divine, even Yaldabaoth, even the physical material world. That's just the fractured mind of God generating these dream realities and then being thrown into it. And I think you can imagine, it's insanity. Imagine yourself going insane, right? And imagine you're sort of going crazy and like you can't tell what's real, what's not. Your thoughts start acting like they're their own beings. And imagine, that like even this dream world gets generated and you just get lost. You start thinking that your dream world is real and you get lost as one of the characters in your dream world and completely forget about the true reality. So in Gnosticism, that's essentially what happened. We are all, in Gnosticism, the pieces of God that basically went insane and got trapped in our own dream. So, now I want to talk about a little bit about Hyperianism and the difference between. In Hyperianism, is that true? Well, here's the thing. Kind of, yes. That's actually pretty damn accurate. Now, we're all eternal monads, but we make up the one, and we did all generate this dream. We started acting out of harmony, and we got thrown into it. But here's the idea. There's different ways to look at it. So, in Hyperianism, we can metaphorically understand our experience in this existence and reality as the result of God, us, going insane. Or we can understand it as God dividing itself in order to experience the joy of reunion and love. Or you can think of it as God just being bored and the desire to create and experience itself in multiplicity, because it's lonely just being the one. Imagine you being the only entity in all of existence. That would be pretty lonely after a while, right? You want to experience yourself in multiplicity. So there's all these different ways to look at it. You can look at it as the result of you can have a sort of negative view of it, which is the result of madness and loneliness, or you can have a more positive outlook on it and look at it as the experience of each other in multiplicity, and have this grand adventure together, and being able to fall in love with each other and fall in love with ourselves, and have this great reunion of love. Aleister Crowley has a great quote on this. It's something like, "I divided myself for love's sake to experience the joy of reunion," or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But so which is it, right? Is it insanity and loneliness, or is it the joy of multiplicity and love and the recombination? Really, it's all these things. You can pick the one that resonates with you the most, right? The one that helps you the most in understanding existence. Pick the one that you most resonate with. But it's all these things at once. It's neither good nor bad. It's both beautiful and horrible at the same time. It's the ultimate synthesis. It's madness and love, loneliness and oneness and multiplicity. Like it's all these. It's the dialectic of all these things occurring at once. So. Also, one thing that I want to point out is that in Hyperianism, we don't look at the material world as necessarily being evil. I want to make that very clear, because in this version of Gnosticism, Sethian Gnosticism, they look at the material world as being absolutely evil. They just want to escape. In Hyperianism, that's not the case. We take the view that's in the Gospel of Thomas, which is a different version of Gnosticism, that looks at the material world as basically being our dream that we can make into anything that we want. So in Sethian Gnosticism, the material world is very evil. And Yaldabaoth is this evil creator god. And they just want to escape to the realm of light. But remember, in Hyperianism, we're about shadow and light. We represent the absolute and Abraxas, which is the union of God and the devil. So we aren't necessarily, we embrace the light of the one, and also embrace the power of Yaldabaoth in being able to create dream realities. You see how we can have that power to create dream realities. So we harness the power of Yaldabaoth to create dream realities, and also having the foresight and understanding and knowledge of the light of reason and the mental reality. So we look at the world as a place to transform, a dream that we can make into our playing ground. Because right now the world seems horrible because it's run in madness. It's run by the rich elite, capitalism, religion, nihilism. All these horrible forces make this world hellish. But we, as creators, have the power to shape this world into whatever we want, and we can create dream realities for ourselves. And what a wonderful thing to be able to experience dreams together. There'll come a time when each and every single one of us will be able to create our own dream realities, and we'll be able to visit each other's dreams. Like, we'll be able to visit each other's worlds and universes. How amazing would that be? You know how you're trying to get to know another person, and if they write a song or a piece of poetry, or even just talk to you about themselves, you get to know them a little better. Imagine if you wanted to get to know a person and you were able to literally step into a world created by their thoughts. We'll be able to do that at some point because we have the power to construct dream realities. So I just want to emphasize that in Hyperianism, we don't share this view that material world is evil, we want to escape. No, we take the Gospel of Thomas view that the world is our playground to establish the kingdom of heaven here and now. This is our unconquerable citadel on the hill. This is New Terra. This is what we mean when we say Hail New Terra. We will create New Terra. It starts as an idea in our mind, and then we will actualize it upon the earth. That's why we say Hail New Terra. So, this is the idea. We are shapers. We are the union. We are the Abraxian absolute. We are light and dark. We have the light of logic and reason in the one, and we have the power of Yaldabaoth to create dream realities. We are all these things. I just want to emphasize that because too many people get on this idea of, oh, we want to escape and the material world is bad. Not the case. Not the case. It's just a dream, It's just material to shape how we will. It's neither bad nor good. It depends how we shape it. Right now, it's been shaped into shit because look at the people running the dream. The rich elite. They don't even, the rich elite, the, religion, capitalism, all these forces, they don't even realize that they are in a dream. Some do, and those are the nefarious ones. Very, very nefarious. But for the most part, most people are in ignorance. There are some, though, that do have this knowledge that purposely want to keep the world in bondage. And that's something we'll talk about another time. But that's very, very true. I've met some of these people. They're terrible, terrible people. So, that's complicated. I will explain that in another video. But these people are real. They do exist. And like I said, what I mean when I say that is that there are these people who have knowledge of what reality is, but it's impartial and incomplete because it's not guided by logic and reason. So they have a warped view of what reality is. It's more so than the average person in that they kind of understand that reality is a dream, but it's not guided by logic and reason, so it's this warped view of reality. And so they look at themselves as sort of these shepherds of humanity, but they're keeping humanity enslaved. They're keeping humanity in bondage. They don't realize that we all need to have the freedom to actualize. It's gross. It's sick. Don't get me started ranting on that because I'll get way off topic. And we're already kind of off topic here. So let's continue. Jesus is revealing all this to Judas, who is most likely an avatar of Yaldabaoth. As we'll see, we'll talk more about this next time. Judas is either an avatar of Yaldabaoth or will be promoted to Lord of the Universe in the future. And that'll be the topic for next video. But for today, Jesus is revealing all this to Judas. So Jesus continues. And Adamas was in the first cloud of light that no angel could ever see among all those called God. And Adamas begat Seth, that place after the image of blank, and after the likeness of this angel. All right, real quick, I say blank. This text is really damaged. So when I say blank, it's because there's a piece of the text missing. So here's another important thing to note. So Adamas was in the first cloud of light that no angel could ever see, and Adamas begot Seth in that place after the image of blank and the likeness of this angel. He made the incorruptible generation of Seth appear to the 12 androgynous luminaries. Again, very, very cool. So even though they don't keep a lot of the feminine aspect in the Gospel of Judas, they still refer to the luminaries as androgynous, which is really cool. Really cool to see androgyny playing a role rather than everything being super masculine. But here, if you're familiar with the Gospel of John, I want to point out an important difference. Because remember, the Gospel of Judas, it's a really short summary. In the secret book of John, it's much more involved. So basically, Jesus is saying, Adamas was in the first cloud of light, and Adamas begat Seth, and then Seth made the incorruptible generation of Seth appear. That's a really short and kind of inaccurate version of what happened in the secret book of John. So the secret book of John basically says that Adamas was the perfect form of humanity, not humanity in any kind of body, not physical in any way, okay? So imagine it being like a blueprint. When, you can get a blueprint of a table. The blueprint of the table is different from the actual physical table. And the actual physical table, depending on how skilled the person making it is, might be a very degraded form of the blueprint. The blueprint is perfect. The blueprint is perfect and an idea. The actual physical table is imperfect and material. Okay? So in Gnosticism, Adamas is the perfect idea of human. And what the evil creator God ultimately does is create a corrupt version based on that perfect pattern, but it is it's based on that perfect pattern. You know what? If you want to know the full story, watch my video on the Secret Book of John. But in a nutshell, and this is a bit inaccurate, but in a nutshell, Yaldabaoth creates an inaccurate version based on these perfect blueprints and traps humanity in these physical bodies. So it isn't actually Adamus that begets Seth. It's Adam. Adamus is the perfect blueprint. Adam is the version that is tied to the material world. And so Adam begets Seth. So here's the idea. And this is explained in the Secret Book of John and the Apocalypse of Adam. I've done videos on all these. They're all playlists in my channel. Go watch them. They're good. I promise. And so basically what happens is you have Adam. Yaldabaoth split Adam and Eve into two beings, and this was keeping Adam from realizing that he was a piece of God, because Yaldabaoth partitioned human into two. Seth, as being the child of Adam and Eve, represents the reunion of what was split apart. Remember, Gnosticism is super allegorical. Everything is symbolic. You're not supposed to take Gnosticism as literal. We don't take Gnosticism as literal. So Adam and Eve were originally one being. Yaldabaoth splits them into two to keep them from realizing their divinity, because Adam represents mind and Eve represents what's called epinoia, or conceptual thinking. And you need both to realize what you are. You need to have mind and have conceptual thinking to be able to have self-awareness and self-reflection. So he split them in two, but Seth, as their child, represents the reunion, and therefore Seth and all the descendants of Seth have that reunited feature, and therefore Seth and all the descendants of Seth have the capability of realizing their divinity and transcending. So symbolically what this means, because in the story of, Adam and Eve and Seth, all the earth are ultimately descendants of Seth. Because anyone who is not a descendant of Seth ultimately gets killed by the flood or something like that. So all of humanity is a descendant of Seth. What this means is that all humanity has the capability of realizing their divine, but not all of them do. In the Apocalypse of Adam, we see that Noah and the descendants of Noah choose to side with the evil god, while the Sethians choose to actualize their divinity. So that's what the incorruptible generation of Seth. So he says he made the incorruptible generation of Seth. The incorruptible generation of Seth represents humanity that has realized that it's divine, realized their divinity. And this is what we are in Hyperianism. We are those who have reached the next evolutionary step, or those who are, at least for those out there who are on their way to achieving that and have dedicated themselves to achieving that and realizing their own divinity through logic and reason and all the different methods in Hyperianism. So then the 72 luminaries themselves made 360 luminaries appear in the incorruptible generation, according to the Spirit's will, so that there'd be 5 for each. And the 12 realms of the 12 luminaries made up their father, with 6 heavens for each realm. So there are 72 heavens for the 72 luminaries, and for each one of them, 5 firmaments, for a total of 360 firmaments. They were giving authority and a great army of angels without number for honor and service, along with virgin spirits too, for the honor and service of all the realms and the heavens with their firmaments. Now the crowd of the immortals is called cosmos, that is perishable, by the Father and the 72 luminaries, with the self-begotten and his 72 realms. That's where the first human appeared with his incorruptible powers. In the realm that appeared with his generation is the cloud of knowledge and the angel who's called Elalith. And Elalith is one of the luminaries. So, if all that sounded, like a bunch of gibberish, here's why. It's a very condensed and inaccurate version of what's in the secret Gospel of John, the secret book of John. And this, you're like, why are you talking about these luminaries and the different angels? So in the secret book of John, all these angels are given names, and they all represent the unfoldment of the divine mind. Some of them are wisdom, some of them is foreknowledge, some of them is, different ways of thought and thinking. So in the secret book of John, it goes into more detail and talks about how each one of these angels, or more aptly called eons, in the secret book of John, represent different faculties of the mind. So it maps out how the mind, the one, started to generate thoughts within itself and how it all worked together. And again, watch my playlist on the secret book of John to get a much detailed breakdown on all that. But in a nutshell, that's what all this means, just explained pretty poorly because the author is doing it in a paragraph rather than many chapters. After these things, Elalith said, "Let 12 angels come into being to rule over chaos and Hades." And look, from the cloud there appeared an angel whose face flashed with fire and whose likeness was defiled by blood. Excuse me. His name was Nebro, which means rebel. Others call him Yaldabaoth. And another angel, Sacklus, came from the cloud too. So Nebro created 6 angels, and Sacklus did 2 to be assistants. They brought out 12 angels in the heavens, each of them receiving a portion in the heavens. All right. Now, in the secret book of John, Yaldabaoth is the result of Sophia having an independent thought. It's the result of, say, the madness of God, the madness of the divine mind. In the book, the Gospel of Judas, you see it's a little bit different. In the Gospel of Judas, it was part of the plan. Elalith says we are going to bring forth Yaldabaoth to rule over chaos and Hades. So you see there is a big difference here. And it's an important difference. And you can see how the Gospel of Judas, again, it seems more like it's trying to appeal to what would eventually become mainstream Christianity. Because you see that they refer to the eons as angels, and they refer to the archons as rulers. They might have thought that, eon and archon, mainstream Christianity, what would be, the groups that would become that might be a little too esoteric for them. And perhaps, the God of the Bible being an evil accident might not be palatable for them either. Maybe saying that it was part of the divine plan to create Yaldabaoth might be more palatable for those who follow what would become mainstream Christianity. You see where I'm going with this? There are alterations made to it to make it more palatable. Because remember, the whole idea of the Gospel of Judas is a critique on mainstream Christianity and an attempt to destroy faith in mainstream Christianity. Because according to Gnosticism, what would become mainstream Christianity is evil. So, also, another important thing to mention, in the secret book of John and the Apocalypse of Adam, Yaldabaoth and Sacklus are one entity. So in the secret book of John, it says that Yaldabaoth is also known, that basically in the secret book of John, it says Yaldabaoth is also known as Sacklus and what's the other name? Samael. And Samael literally means blind god. And Saklas means fool. And then in the Apocalypse of Adam, the evil creator god is also called Sakla. So in most of the Gnostic texts, not all of them, but, well, I mean in the prominent ones, like the more foundational ones, especially the Secret Book of John, Yaldabaoth, Saklas, Samael, he also has a name called Ariel, which is sort of the perfect name, the secret perfect name. But all these are different names for the same entity. The blind god, the fool, the rebel. You see how these different names represent different aspects. And so, in this book, in the Gospel of Judas, there are actually two different entities. Yaldabaoth and Saklas are two different entities. Now, it's very possible that they are just using this as an allegorical tool to represent different aspects. Because you see, with each name comes a different aspect. You have Yaldabaoth, who is Saklas the fool, Nebro the rebel, Samael the blind god. They're like different titles. You know them by different names, different aspects. So in the Gospel of Judas, they're described as different entities, but really, you know, it's sort of like different aspects. Because you see here, others called him, so according to the Gospel of Judas, his name was Nebro, which means rebel. Others called him Yaldabaoth. And another angel, Saklas, who came from the cloud. So Nebro created 6 angels, and Saklas did 2 to be assistants. They brought out 12 angels in heaven, which each of them having a portion in the heavens. So you see how they're also sort of mirroring each other? This is also, further evidence that most likely these are different aspects. You have, them mirroring each other. Yaldabaoth creates 6, Saklas creates 6. So anyway, the reason why I'm pointing this out is that when in the Gospel of Judas, Saklas plays the role mostly of the evil creator god. But we know from the Secret Book of John that Yaldabaoth and Saklas, they're kind of just like different ways of looking at the same thing. Anyway, this is more anecdotal. It doesn't really matter. I'm just letting you guys know if anyone happens to be interested in it. I don't know if you think it's cool or not. I don't know. I think this stuff is cool. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting to have, it's Yaldabaoth, Samael, Saklas, Nebro, the blind god, the fool, the rebel. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. I think it's one thing that I do like about these ways of looking at reality is that it's very... The world today is so boring and mundane. It's just really bland. Like, I'm a politician. Here are the tax reforms that I'm trying to implement. Here are my, I'm a philosopher. I talk about mathematical ontology. I mean, yeah, that's fine and whatever. But it's a lot more interesting to be, these grand titles. Understand that when you are a part of Hyperianism, you might be a Hyperion philosopher or a Hyperion politician. But you are so much more than that. You're not just a politician. You're a world shaper. You're not just a philosopher. You're a world shaper. You are this force of reality. You're not this mundane title that the world gives you. And we need to inject that more and more into Hyperianism and New Terra and the world community. And again, I just think that that's a really cool, again, Yaldabaoth, the Samael, Nebro and Saklas and the blind god, the fool and the rebel. It's just this more divine way. And I know I'm talking about, Yaldabaoth is evil here, but the same thing with the good entities. They also have these different titles. I am getting a little off track, but what I mean to say is that reality has become very mundane and bland. Because reality is nihilistic and capitalistic, consumerist, money grabbing. It's all like the worst possible things. So one element of a new world is injecting more meaning into the world. Like not just thinking, oh, I'm a politician and I'm a philosopher. Even if you are a politician and philosopher, and that's awesome, but you're so much more than that. You are a force of the universe. You are an avatar of Abraxas. You are an emissary of the absolute. You are the mind of God awakened. You are the inner star actualized. You are an eternal mind stepping forth into reality to shape it, to shape this dream according to your will and according to our will. And you might do that through politics and through philosophy. But having that understanding behind it makes it that much more powerful, because now you're shaping it according to a developed analog all that has all the universe in mind. You're not just in that avatar perspective, but, oh, I'm just me in a body, a material thing that is a politician and really wants to pass this reform. No, you know that you're a force of the universe. You have the universe in mind as you enact and manifest your will, which is our will, through being a politician and pushing that reform. You see the difference and the perspective? And you might wonder, like, well, why have that? Why is that important? It's so much different. Because imagine, like, let's say that, I don't know, you're trying to, I'm trying to use an example here where something that an animal and a human both could do. Let's say an animal is trying to, God, I can't think of let's say pick a fruit off a tree, okay? There's an animal that has the capability of picking a fruit off a tree. And a human also has the ability to pick a fruit off the tree. But that animal is merely sentient and does not have self-awareness. That human does have self-awareness. So there is a difference between the action of picking the fruit. Even though both actions are picking the fruit, they're completely different. The animal's just picking the fruit because it's going by its unconscious programming and it wants to eat it. The human might be picking the fruit because it wants to bring it back to its community and add to the store that they're storing for the winter. Or something like that. I know some animals can do that, but you get what I mean? It's this different perspective. Even though the action is the same, it's a different perspective. Same thing as a Hyperion who has a developed analog all and has achieved absolute awareness. You can do the same thing as a human, like be a politician and push a tax reform, or be a philosopher and show, mathematical proofs. But what you are doing is completely different. You are doing it with the will of your monadic mind and the inner star and the absolute, and for the will, the good of the universe and the collective, and also your individual actualization. Just like the human and the animal both pick the fruit, but because they have different levels of awareness, it's completely different. Same thing between the human and the Hyperion that has achieved absolute awareness, can do the same sorts of thing, but with a different perspective and a different understanding, a different purpose. So there's that, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it's important, right? It's cool. Let's have a more interesting reality. This world can be whatever we want. Let's have a better experience than this shithole. That's my point, and we can. So, and the 12 rulers spoke with the 12 angels. See, again, you have 12 rulers instead of archons. See, and the 12 rulers spoke with the 12 angels and the 12 archons spoke with the 12 eons. It's, to make it more palatable for those who are following what would become mainstream Christianity. So, let each of you blank, and let them blank generation blank 5 angels. The first is Yeoth, who's called the Good One. The second is Harmathoth, the Eye of Fire. It's a badass title, isn't it? The third is Gelilah. The fourth is Yobel. And the fifth is Adonios. These are the 5 who ruled over Hades and are the first over chaos. Then Saklas said to his angels, "Let's create a human being after the likeness and the image." And they fashioned Adam and his wife Eve, who in the cloud is called Life, because by this name all the generations seek him, and each of them calls by their names. Now, Sackless didn't command blank give birth, except blank among the generations, blank which this, blank. And the angel said to him, your life will last for a limited time with your children. Then Judas said to Jesus, how long can a person live? Jesus said to him, why are you amazed that the lifespans of Adam and his generation are limited in the place he's received his kingdom with his ruler? So, again, you have Sackless saying to his angels, let's create a human being. And it's summed up in this gospel in just a couple lines. If you want to know more, watch my playlist on the Secret Book of John and the Apocalypse of Adam. Because in these books, we see there's a lot more to it. It's all about trying to thwart them from coming to divine knowledge. We see that the evil creator God actually ends up raping Eve. And the story is much more in depth than what is explained here. But we are, I've been talking for a while because I went off on some tangents. So I think I should begin to wrap up this particular one. But next week, we are going to talk about, next week is probably going to be the finale of the Gospel of Judas, where we talk about how Judas becomes Lord of the universe. It's going to be a really interesting one. It includes the betrayal of Jesus, Judas becoming Lord of the universe, and we're probably going to finish up the Gospel of Judas, so make sure you are there for that one. But the main takeaway here is that, again, you're having this standoff between Jesus and Judas as these opposing forces, and you have Jesus revealing this secret knowledge to Judas about the divine realm. And remember, Jesus is saying to Judas, I'm telling you this not because you're going to go there, but because so you'll grieve when you know that you can't go there. So again, you're having this sort of anime-like standoff, those animes where they go on monologues for hours and hours, not hours, but you know what I mean, long time. And so that's basically what's happening here. You have Jesus and Judas sort of facing off, and Jesus is revealing the secrets of the hidden God, the true divine reality, and of creation to Judas, so that Judas will know the truth, but grieve because he will know that he can never get there. But next week we are going to see the betrayal when Judas betrays Jesus, and then Judas will become the Lord of the universe as we wrap up the Gospel of Judas. So make sure that you are there. I want to give a big shout out to all the supporters on Patreon, especially the top supporters like Timothy, Renaissance Fairy, and Jordy. If you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon. You'll unlock free secret weekly live streams, access to my lecture notes for this video and many others, and access to our secret Discord server, The Citadel. You can also get that by subscribing to the second membership tier on YouTube. But Patreon is the best way to support. Thanks to all our amazing supporters. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. That's how I'm able to continue to create.